The Prime Minister's partner, Carrie Symonds, yet again is at the centre of a political row. Allegations she's pushed people out of jobs, allegations she's proposed people for big jobs. I've written about the very same subject in the Daily Mail today. Now it seems one Tory pressure group, the Bow Group, been around for decades, is calling for an inquiry into whether it is appropriate for a Prime Minister's spouse to have apparently so much influence. Joining me now is Ben Harris-Quinney, who is chairman of the think tank, the Bow Group. Ben, who do you think should conduct the inquiry, knowing, of course, that nobody in number 10 is going to allow it for a second?
Well, ideally, I think there needs to be an independent inquiry. As you rightly say, it's very unlikely that, unless the government face huge pressure, that they will agree to conducting a government inquiry, and therefore we think that a judicial review would be appropriate into several key decisions that have been made in recent years and are reported to have been significantly involving Carrie Symonds.
What decisions are you referring to?
I'm referring to the decision to hire Nimco Ali as a government advisor, who is reported to be one of Ms. Symonds' very close friends. I'm talking about the decision to... She
got a job at the Home Office, didn't she? And it wasn't advertised in the usual way.
Yes. So I think we're not talking about an unpaid position either. So there are taxpayers' funds that are going to this new advisor, and I think there are big questions to answer about what the hiring process was for that and what Ms. Symonds' involvement in it was. And the other questions that I think perhaps more pertinent to the running of the country has been the removal of three key Downing Street officials in Dominic Cummings, Lee Kane, and most recently Oliver Lewis, who I think most people accord a huge amount of the detail work of the Brexit deal to. And I think that there are also questions as to government policy. I mean, we're told a lot about the green agenda that Boris Johnson is going to come forward with and how significant Carrie Symonds has been in that. And of course, the problem with all this is that Carrie Symonds has absolutely no accountability to anyone. And so when these things are going on in Downing Street, when these consistent reports of inappropriate behaviour are coming out, there's no process to deal with Carrie Symonds. Even someone that works at Starbucks, if they behave inappropriately at work or, are involved in any inappropriate actions at all, there's a legal process to deal with that. We're talking about the government of the United Kingdom, and there's no legal process to deal with this person, and I think that is a real affront to our democracy.
You would have heard, I'm sure, that Nick Connor, who worked with Carrie Symonds on the Brexit campaign, says she's now effectively become the Downing Street Chief of Staff. The trouble is, he can say that, can't he, Ben, but nobody can prove it, and even if there were to be an inquiry, don't Prime Ministers, consorts, spouses, aren't they always hugely influential? Wasn't Philip May very influential with Theresa May? Wasn't Cherie Blair very influential in the kitchen cabinet of Tony Blair?
Well, I think we're not talking about kitchen cabinet anymore. We're talking about cabinet. We're talking about government. And in my lifetime, and I'm not aware of any historical examples of a significant other of the Prime Minister that has been accorded with such a significant role in the running of the country. I don't remember this with Philip May. I don't remember this with Samantha Cameron. I don't remember it with Norma Major, and not even Cherie Blair, who is, of course, an established QC in her own right. So I don't think there's ever been such significant and consistent reporting of the involvement of an unaccountable individual in government. And that is something that has occurred in only a year and a half. Whereas many other prime ministers have been in post for a lot longer. So I think for it to have occurred so significantly, so consistently, and in such a short space of time is extraordinary. And I do think that it urgently needs to be looked into. And I would disagree with you that it can never be proven, because, of course, government is a government of records, and it should be a government of transparency. So there should be a record, for example, of the process to hire Nimco Ali as a government advisor. And that's the sort of thing that needs to come, I think, before a judge.
Just finally, not everyone in your own group agrees with what you're doing, of course, Ben. Sir John Redwood, very senior, distinguished Conservative backbencher, was, of course, in the Cabinet many years ago. He says this is inappropriate, accused you of sexism.
Well, I'm not aware that John Redwood has accused me of sexism.
Other people have said it's just what you're doing is sexist, but Sir John Redwood has said that this is not what the Bow Group should be doing.
Yeah, well, John Redwood is a patron of the Bow Group, much in the same way as Princess Anne, for example, is a patron of the Scottish Rugby Union. He doesn't have any role in the day-to-day running of the organisation, and I would say it would be very unlikely that you will get a Conservative MP to come out publicly and criticise the role of Carrie Symonds because of the nature of her relationship to the Prime Minister. It sort of can't be perceived as anything other than a personal attack in that sense. However, I've spoken to many Conservative MPs, and there are consistent reports in the press over the last few days of how behind the scenes Conservative MPs are very happy to speak out and raise their concerns about this issue. And I think particularly over the firing of Oliver Lewis, who is very well liked and very well respected on Conservative backbenches, and particularly among the Brexit movement, there is really significant, huge anger and concern among MPs.
All right, that's Ben Harris-Quinney, who is the head of the Bow Group, which is calling for this inquiry into the conduct of Carrie Symonds, who is, of course, the Prime Minister's fiancée and mother of his child. Thanks for joining us.